Hi, I'm Seth, and today I thought we'd talk about a trend we're seeing in the virtual event space. And while it may not be a pitfall, it's probably a dead end. We're taking a look at virtual sets and why they're probably more hassle than they're worth. Virtual set technology is a way of either creating or extending the appearance of a chosen environment beyond what actually exists. And the idea has been around in one form or another since 1907, when Norman Don used matte painting in his film Missions of California. The arches in this shot aren't there. They're actually painted on a piece of glass that's being held in front of the camera. He's extending the building's facade for the camera only. Of course, it turns out that it's not practical to have a giant pane of glass between you and your laptop, so we're going to move on to a more modern version of the same thing. Today, it is much more common to see this done digitally, and it's used to great effect in carefully lit studio green screen sets with motion tracking, color correction, skilled composite artists. But again, it's not super practical to have that in your home office. We do all have access to a version of this using the virtual background feature of a platform like Zoom or through third-party applications and other platforms. Hey Nick, can you give me a solid background? Thanks. Now, how about running my image through Zoom? Okay, so now we have me on a virtual background. I haven't confirmed this with anyone at Zoom, but I assume that this was created simply because it's cool. Or maybe it was mostly a privacy feature. There may be times when you don't want your fellow attendees to know about where or possibly how you live. Used for those reasons, and as an attendee, this makes perfect sense. It's awesome. Go for it. But do you notice how all of my edges are a little weird looking? And my head changes shape, my hands kind of disappear? That's not awesome. It's pretty distracting and totally not appropriate for a meeting presenter. Can it be made to work better? To look right? Yeah. And I can think of at least 3 approaches that would improve this. But I guarantee that they are all more cumbersome than just finding a nice background. Okay, speaking of doing it better, the next step up from a virtual background is a full virtual set. Nick, make me a sportscaster. Here, I'm using a stock set from a popular live streaming system. It can be customized, and it does have a better compositing engine. However, it makes changing shots more complicated, and it's not like you really think I'm at a news desk. This is a bunch of work and workarounds for a product that isn't super convincing. It also has the added issue of making my image smaller on the screen so that we can see more of the set. There's going to be more on that later. Okay, so our last bit is somewhat more complicated, so I'm going to have to move. More complicated, like the difference between a trip to Space Mountain and a trip to space. The current state of the art are mixed reality systems. Some companies are using video games and virtual reality systems to combine live video with virtual trade show booths or virtual meeting rooms. It allows for a huge amount of creativity, but it's several orders of magnitude more complicated, expensive, and actually has a counterproductive effect. If you want your presenter to look like they are part of an impressive set, they, by definition, have to be tiny in comparison. Congratulations. You have just put every one of your attendees into the cheap seats. The trade show thing is equally silly. A trade show booth is loud and flashy to draw attention in an environment that's filled with other loud and flashy trade show booths. By the time you have your audience in your meeting, you already have their attention. I assume your booth attendants don't keep yelling in your customer's face when they arrive. They answer questions one-on-one, and that's the real value. If you want to impress your audience, give them a chance for small group interaction with your brand ambassadors immediately following your presentation. Use the breakout function or send them each a customized link during the presentation. It's a lot of work, but that will show real commitment. And that touches on what we see as the biggest impediment to virtual sets. The cost-benefit balance is all wrong. Yes, these systems are currently impressive and show that you spent money, but they are still digital and the cost is going to plummet. The first 3 times your customers see one of these, they might be impressed, But after that, it's just more fluff. In our opinion, almost all virtual set technology either makes you look unprofessional or takes a lot of cost and effort, and then, unless you have some very specific use case, it still makes your message weaker. Are there specific scenarios where the epic virtual sets make sense? Well, yeah, probably. I guess the best thing to remember is that a good conversation about incorporating new technology into a production sounds a lot like an argument with a teenager. The question that keeps reoccurring is, but why? And the person who is subconsciously asking that question is your audience. Let's try. I want to use a virtual background.
But why?
Because it looks cool?
Whatever.
Okay, how about because I'm going to do a virtual background well, so it's not distracting, and I'm going to put in content that either furthers my point or clarifies my message, or maybe entertains my audience.
Okay.
Let's try this. I want to use a virtual set.
But why?
How about it's part of a theme and has custom-built elements that are going to further the arc of the event?
All right.
Have I mentioned that events need to unfold like a story now? They've always had to move through a structure, but now it's super important because nobody knows what that structure looks like. All right. I want to use mixed reality.
But why?
Because I'm actually going to use it to point out features in a product as I walk through a mocked-up trade show booth. It'll be like magic text hanging in space for the viewer.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm taking the thought process to a ridiculous extreme. But a meeting is almost always about a message, so you'll want to focus on that. Hone the message, connect with the audience, and if the technology doesn't help one of those things, ditch it. As a final thought that was in the outline but didn't make it into the script, eventually events are going to move back from being 100% virtual to a hybrid model, and virtual sets look really weird if your audience is in the room. Okay, so we're putting together videos on remote presentation all summer. So if you have any questions around that, let us know at feedback@productivemedia.com, or, just send us a note, say hi. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. Thanks for watching.